Hey everybody, and welcome back to Joel Faust Reviews. I just got done watching The Flash, the latest episode of The Flash from last night. It was awesome as usual. We left off. It starts off where the last week we left off with Barry actually breaking through the time barrier and going back all the way to the previous morning at 10 a.m. When he was about to go to the morgue and investigate why the alarm was going off. So, in this episode, it starts off that he's still kind of in shock about what's going on, but he just goes ahead along with it. Once Cisco's telling him, hey, what are you waiting for? Get to the morgue. So Barry says, well, I already did this yesterday. What's going on? But he went ahead and just went anyway. And as he starts to see that the events are unfolding exactly like they did before, he's kind of in shock that, when he's realizing what really happened. So the first thing he does is, when he gets back to Star Labs, is he tries to tell Dr. Wells about it. Or I'll say Dr. Wells because he's still, playing that two-face, in disguise role. But we all know now that he's Eobard Thawne. But just for intensive purposes, I'm just going to say that he's Dr. Wells. So, for when he confronts Wells about it, or actually no, what happens is that Barry's actually kind of finishing everyone's sentences for them because he knows everything they're going to say. And Wells catches on to this, so he says, you ruptured the time continuum, how long? And he's telling, Barry's telling him what happened, and it's been about 24 hours or so. And he says, good, don't change anything. Everything you did before, do it exactly the way you did, because the slightest change could mess everything up. So, Barry's struggling with him, between doing the right thing and trying to help the people that he cares about. And he's also kind of excited that he knows what Iris told him before, so he tries to kind of mess around with that too. But things, unfortunately, are kind of not turning out as he would like. So the main problem, I think, that has to deal with the criminal, what was his name, Martin, from last week. Barry basically tries to cheat, and since he knows where he is hiding, he goes and gets him before he could do any of the stuff he did last week, and he locks him up. And then Joe is kind of wondering what's going on, like, hey, why do you know all these things, and why are you acting so weird? And Barry doesn't explain anything to him, at least not yet. And Wells is also kind of upset that that Barry didn't listen to him, and he went ahead and changed how things happen. And he warned him. He said, I warned you about changing time. He said, time is, whatever crisis you think you divert it, time's going to find a way to replace it, and it could be even worse this time. And things did definitely get more complicated because since Barry actually apprehended Martin, that freed up time for Cisco to actually go to his brother's birthday party, and that it also allowed he and his brother to end up getting captured by Cool and the Rogues. So this time around, Cool ends up torturing Cisco's brother and forcing him to actually let them, not only to build them their weapons again, but to actually name the real name of the Flash, and tell him that it's Barry. So he went ahead and told him that was Barry in order for him and his brother to be released. So that's definitely a big problem because now Cool can hold that over Barry's head and say he's going to tell the whole world, and he's got it all on whatever kind of media ready to upload to the internet or whatever to let everybody in the whole world know who the Flash really is. So he's kind of using that as leverage to the extent that Barry and Cool kind of have this agreement for now that, okay, look, we're both going to be playing this game for a while, but Barry says, look, no more killing. If you're really as good as you say you are, you don't have to kill people to get what you want. And he says, but if you start, getting out of line like this, or try to threaten any of his friends like he did again, that he doesn't care, who he tells his identity to, he's going to do away with him. So he, I think in the end, Barry doesn't really care who, that people know who he is, if it comes down to doing the right thing. But for now, they kind of just agree to basically leave each other alone, I guess, for now, and then and not blow each other's fun, I guess you could say, as you could put it. as far as with Barry and Iris, he got all excited and asked her to. He actually, allowed his relationship with. I can't even remember her name now. With his girlfriend to. He allowed that to just basically end. Even though she confronted him about it because she could tell he still cares about Iris. So basically, he allowed that to happen because in the back of his mind, he remembers what Iris told him before about how she really felt about him. So he's getting excited, thinking that he can get her to say it again and that they can be together. And when he's talking to Iris about it, she says, "No, what are you talking about? I love Eddie. I'm with Eddie now." And then she gets up and leaves, and she's mad at him because she's making him. She feels like he's making her look like the bad guy by rejecting him. So apparently she ends up telling Eddie about it because he comes and clocks, straight up punches Barry right in the face, and tells him to stay away from Iris, and that he thought that they were friends. So Barry's pretty much feeling pretty much like just embarrassed and pretty pathetic and out of place. So he ends up having to talk to Wells about it, and Wells allows him to kind of get his feelings out so he can feel better. And he doesn't get into things too much, but he does mention how Iris, admitted her feelings for him, and then now all of a sudden she's not, and he's like, she still does feel that way, deep down, doesn't she? So he's obviously kind of confused, and he doesn't know why she's not admitting it to him this time. And Joe ends up even talking to her and says, "Look, who do you love?" And she says, "I love Eddie." And Joe tells her that, "Look, you better prove it to them because I don't think either one of them, meaning Eddie or Barry, believes her because Eddie's still insecure and thinks that she likes Barry, and Barry's picking up vibes that when she looks at him and things like that, that he feels like she feels the same way as he does." So basically, which obviously is true because we all know that Barry and Iris are a thing, but for the sake of the show, we can't help but wonder when they're going to allow that to even happen, because towards the end of the show, Caitlin actually helps Barry out by explaining to Eddie and Iris that Barry has some kind of a health problem because he got struck by lightning, so he gets all these weird memory problems, starts saying things that don't make any sense, and they believe her because Iris was listening to Barry when they had lunch, and he was talking about how it might be some kind of ESP thing that he knows that they could be together, but he was really telling her that just because he didn't want to tell her about how he went, through an alternate timeline, and he knows from the previous one what she said. He didn't want to tell her that, so he's just, making up some random excuses. But it was hilarious at the end where she said that she was like, he told me he had ESP, and then they were just looking at him like he was like they were so sorry for him. And Eddie gives him a big hug and everything and says he's sorry. So I thought that was great. But we don't know where things are going to go now. It's like going to be all prolonged again, and then we know that there's going to be an issue between Eddie and Barry at some point because the Thawnes and the Allens have this long, all that's ever since that moment between Barry and Eddie. There's this long history of kind of like this competition and adversity between the Allens and the Thawnes. So it becomes a whole thing out in the future from Earboard Thawne's time. There's actually Thawnes that are in like public office, like that are like I don't know if it's like one of them's the president or something like that, but they're all competing. The Allens are like this big, real big on their side, with the family, with what they do with science and all that stuff like that, and then the Thawnes are real big. It's like this whole family competition, family feud type thing. So it's we know that at some point Eddie and Barry probably are not going to be cool with each other anymore for some reason. Who knows when they're going to put that into the show. It's probably not going to be for a long time now because things are still just getting started, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens in between and when Barry and Iris get together. Another problem is that with Reverse Flash, with Eobard, what Eobard Thawne likes to do is he likes to go back in time and change things, and that's probably the whole reason why he came back, at the beginning of the series. We just don't know exactly why he came back. He said he was there to kill Barry, but obviously he didn't do that. If he wanted to kill Barry, he would have killed him as a boy, which he didn't do. So the question is, why did that happen? Did someone stop him somehow? Was it the future Barry that came back and did it? I'm still extremely curious as far as what exactly, how things started with all that. I want to know exactly, where's the future Barry? Is he actually dead? Is he stuck in the Speed Force? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. And also, there's the missing blood. That Cisco and Joe discovered at their old house, Barry and Joe's old house, where his mother got killed. I'm curious to see how they explain that. But at the end of the day, when let me see, I think I'm forgetting something here too. Probably, no, I think that's most of it. Because there was the in-between stuff where Cisco got fooled by Cool's sister. That was kind of funny, but at the same time, that's to be expected, I guess. They're going to try to, when someone's got brains like Cisco, villains are going to try and use them to do things, that for them. And so far, that's all they've been doing. Cool has to rely on him to get their weapons. And one thing that Cool did mention to him, though, was that he was able to kind of, in some ways, I won't say reverse engineer, but he was able to break down the weapons and see how they worked to a certain extent. Obviously, it's not to the extent that he could build them himself, but he does know a little bit how they work, because when Cisco tried to make his gun not function properly, he was able to pick up on that, and he knew he did that, and he made him fix it. So I thought that was interesting, but for now, I guess they're just going to go their own separate ways, and they're back in the picture again. So we'll see what they start up next time. Who knows what they're going to do. They might not be on the show for a while, and then they'll just come back. I saw the previews for the next show too, and that's what I was thinking about. Mark Hamill. I can't believe they brought him back as the Trickster. He was actually the Trickster in the original Flash series back in the 90s, and he did good at that, because he kind of made the Trickster kind of not like the Joker, but he kind of sounded like him a little bit. He kind of used that same voice that he played, because Mark Hamill, for any of you that don't know, he actually played the Joker in the Batman series in the cartoon back in the 90s, and a lot of people think that and he also does the Joker voice for the video games, for the Arkham series and stuff like that. So a lot of people think that Mark Hamill's like really the best Joker. They think that his voice over skills and everything, or voice acting skills, are exceptional, and I would agree. And just to have him on the show, I think I just can't wait to see how they do it. I know they're gonna end up. The original Flash series. It's unfortunate that it only lasted like one season, and there's a reason for that. It started off cool because the original Flash series kind of came around a time when the Michael Keaton Batman was still out, and that was so exciting at the time for DC. They kind of took from that, so they made the Flash suit kind of like this muscular, suit, because that's how the Batman suit looked. They kind of applied that to the Flash look and made it look all muscular. So at first it looked all cool and everything, but then the stories just got really, to be frank, they were really corny. I mean, the writing was bad, and they didn't really stick to the comics as much as they probably could have. But they did have the Trickster in there, and it was Mark Hamill that played the Trickster even back then. And to have, I think that, people wanted the Flash. I wanted the Flash show to be good. I think it had a lot of viewers at first, until the stories just got so bad that people just stopped watching it, and it got canceled. But when it was good, those first several episodes or whatever, that it was good, and then people were watching it, it had a big impact. A lot of people were really watching it, and it made people aware of the Flash probably for the first time. And I think that's why the creators of the show are kind of paying homage to that. Where they have the original Flash is playing Barry's father. What is her name that plays? She played for. Right now she's back on the show but she's with Mercury Labs. She was in the original Flash. Let me look it up real quick here and get her name. Okay, I got him. It's the original actors from the original show was John Wesley Shipp. He played Barry Allen. Now he's in this show and plays Barry Allen's father, which I thought that was great that they put him on here because they recognize even though the show was so short lived, what a big impact he made on the show and brought the Flash out there to make the general public aware of who the Flash was. And Amanda Pays played Tina McGee, that's her name. And I thought it was great that they showed her momentarily in the episode with the Man in Yellow. They showed her in there when they were asking for the tachyon device. And she's still the same character. I thought that was great. And now with this episode coming up next week with Mark Hamill playing the trickster, he was in the original show. So I thought that was I really liked that because I think while the previous show was good only for a short time, when it was popular, it was actually good and it had a big impact and it made a lot of people recognize the Flash as a real hero. Back when people were only worried about Superman and Batman and stuff like that. So I think that it's great that they're including these characters. And I love Mark Hamill. I can't wait to see him in the new Star Wars movies. But, that's probably another discussion there. But I can't wait to see him play the trickster again. I wonder if they're going to change it a little bit. It sounds like he's using the same voice. It looks like he straps some kind of device to the Flash that he has to run constantly if he slows down, just like the movie Speed, where the bus, Keanu Reeves they had to keep driving the bus because if it slowed down, it was going to explode. So he puts a device on Barry where he has to keep running. If he slows down, it's going to blow up, and that's great because there's actually a cartoon where the Flash has to do that. I think it's a cartoon movie where the Flash gets some kind of bomb like that on him. I think it's I don't know if it was Doom. Was it Doomsday? It might have been Doomsday. I gotta find out. I'll put it in the comments if I found out what it is. But there's a cartoon movie with the Flash where it's the same thing, where he gets a device that's going to explode. If he doesn't, he has to keep running at super speed, like full speed. If he slows down at all, it'll like just completely detonate. And they're actually putting that in the show. I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be awesome. Also, if any of you out there remember the name of the cartoon movie, please go ahead and put it in the comments. I'm sure I can just go online and figure it out, but that's something I can't wait to see. So basically, just kind of condensing everything. We start off with the show. Barry realizes he went back in time. He's getting told by Wells not to change anything, but going against Wells' better judgment. Barry does make a couple of changes that end up, blowing up in his face. The first one is that he, gets Martin before he has a chance to do anything that he did last week, and he gets locked up. Unfortunately, that kind of blows up because that results in Cisco and his brother getting kidnapped, and then ultimately his identity getting revealed to Cool and the Rogues that, the Flash is really Barry Allen. So that's obviously a big problem. Even though right now things are cool, Cisco and his brother got out, but and obviously Cisco's still alive, so I guess you could argue all that's worth it as long, to save Cisco. In fact, I thought it was clever that there was a scene where Wells takes Cisco into the room where the containment unit was with the force field from last week, and he actually says the same line that he said last week, but instead he tells him that in many ways he's not a parent, but in many ways he's shown him what it's like to have a son. And he said that last week before he killed him, but this week he said it as a gesture to try and make him feel better and stay working with them at Star Labs. I thought it was clever that they did that. But so I guess you could argue. I guess that my personal perspective on that is that even though things were jacked up, at least Cisco's still alive. But now it's interesting that the reporter is now dead. What was his name? Let me see. Oh, okay, I found it. I just looked it up. Absent-minded me, but it's I don't remember his real name, but I know I've seen him on General Hospital. His real name's Roger Hallworth, and I know there's probably a lot of people out there that are like, how do you not know who he is? But I know he did play in General Hospital. I just don't watch the show, except for once in a while I might see it. But he plays Mason. What's his name? Mason Bridge. That's the reporter. That's the name of the reporter on the show, Mason Bridge. He ends up getting killed by the Reverse Flash instead of Cisco. Basically, I guess somebody ended up having to die. But I can't remember. That's what I wanted to say. I can't remember how he is. I don't know if does anyone remember seeing how he may have discovered this? Did somebody at some point tell Wells that Mason Bridge had a problem or was accusing him of doing anything? I'm trying to think back to last week or anything prior to that. He did say, I think last week, Mason Bridge did tell Iris that when he's bored, he follows Wells around. Maybe it's safe to assume that Wells at some point kind of could tell that he was following him and just deduced everything himself. Why he didn't kill him earlier, I don't know, but for whatever reason, he went ahead and destroyed all the evidence he had on his hard drive, and then he killed him, which I was surprised. I thought maybe he might let him go, but he did the same thing. He stuck his arm through his chest, right through his heart, to kill him, and that was kind of messed up. Eventually, and now Barry, when he saw that Barry actually got a glimpse of Mason Bridge's face on the news, and he saw that he was missing, and he didn't tell Wells about that he saw that, because Barry finally already knows that Mason Bridge was suspecting Wells of having something to do with the disappearance of what's his name, that politician. But now that he's seen that, he's starting to think there's something wrong with him. So I think at some point, Barry and Wells there's gonna be a confrontation. I don't know how it's gonna take place or when, but I think at this point Barry's probably gonna try and keep his mouth shut and just kind of keep an eye on Wells and see if he can learn more about what he might be hiding, or what he has to do with some of these things that have happened. And I guess we'll just have to see what's going to happen and go from there. But at some point, obviously, they're going to end up being full-blown enemies again, and it's going to be interesting to see how they get into that, because are they going to actually get into the origin of everything about how Eobard and Barry first became enemies? Because according to the comics, at first Eobard wanted to be Barry's friend, and because he actually was obsessed with the Flash in his time in the 25th century, and it made him want to go back in time to meet the Flash and to actually wear a Flash. He actually made himself that fast when he discovered the Speed Force. He actually discovered the existence of the Speed Force and was able to duplicate the accident that made Barry, who he is, and Eobard Thawne was able to duplicate that, and so he actually goes back in time, according to comics, to actually try and meet Barry, like he's his biggest fan and everything. So, and then, but things get screwed up, and depending on what age you're talking about in the comics, that's where the story really can get different. So I'm kind of curious how they're gonna, what parts of that they're gonna take from the show and put that in, and how they might change it. So what do you think? At the end of the day, what did you think about last night's episode of The Flash? And do you think, how long do you think it's going to take for Iris to admit her true feelings for Barry again? And also, what about the identity of who the Flash really is being revealed to Cool and the Rogues? Is that something that's going to get out at some point? And how's that going to affect Barry's life and the people he loves? Is that going to put Joe and Iris and everybody he knows in danger? Which I would have to assume yes, but I mean, well, tell me what you think in the comics. And then also, what about the Reverse Flash, the way he took out Mason Bridge? Even though he's keeping his secret safe for now, what's Barry going to end up finding out about it? Because now Barry suspects something's not right with Wells. So, what do you think's going to happen there? I think I pretty much talked about everything. I don't think I'm leaving everything out. We talked about how time blew, messing with time blew up in Barry's face. We talked about Cisco and Cool and the Rogues, and Cisco's brother. talked about Mason Bridge getting killed. We talked about next week, what's going to happen next week with Mark Hamill being the trickster again, which I can't believe. So I think we touched on pretty much most of the things. If I'm leaving anything out, please put it in the comments and remind me, or let me know what you thought about the episode in general, or any questions you have. Put everything in there, and I'll see you next time. And I'm going to be watching The Arrow tonight, so I'll probably put up a video about what I thought about last week's episode first, and then we'll see what happens tonight. Alright, so keep watching. Please subscribe if you like the videos and you look forward to hearing my 2 cents on what's going on with these shows that I like to watch. And have a good day. Alright, bye.